Welcome to the Rick Helps Real Estate Show. See, I almost forgot my microphone. So told you I practice this on the fly and I don't edit anything. So you get to see all the raw mistakes. We're here to update you on Arizona real estate over the week to see what changed and what didn't. And in the real estate world, there's really been a lot of chatter about, you guessed it, artificial intelligence, and you know who, Zillow. And if you're not in the business, you probably didn't even read anything about it, but here it is. It's saying that, Zillow debuts the only real estate app in Chat GPT. And we're like, oh, holy cow. They're the only one. And so when you go into Chat GPT and you ask them a question, which I did, I said, Zillow, show me homes in Gilbert, Arizona that are 3-bedroom, 2-bath under 450,000. So it spits them out. And it shows you to source these little tiny spots here. This is from Zillow. And if I click on these, it'll take me to the Zillow website. So they've integrated. It's not really that earth shattering. I asked the same question in Google because, ChatGPT is now becoming it's outpacing Google in searches, in the velocity of searches that have. They're still not bigger than Google, but they're catching up pretty quick. So I went to Google and asked the same question, except I didn't use the word Zillow. I want to see what came up. And so you end up with some sponsored ads here, and then you get down here, and then it's Realtor.com, Zillow, Sweep Homes, Phoenix. They show up pretty good. Homes.com, Redfin, Realtor.com, and the like. And then there's another one here that says, okay, well, top portals launch AI-driven search experience. Zillow is no longer the only major portal to integrate with AI or conversational home search on its site. Top competitors Realtor.com and Homes.com have also recently announced new AI-powered integrations to their search experience. What do they mean by conversational? Well, you just did a search for Gilbert Homes 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and ChatGPT remembers that. And then you go, I'd like a pool. So they add that to your search. No HOA. So everything that you talk to the AI about, it's going to remember and keep filtering everything out, and it'll save the whole conversation with you. So all of these major portals like Homes.com and Realtor.com are trying to integrate with that and do that on their own website. So I don't think the Zillow thing is really that big of a deal, except, for real estate agents, anytime somebody goes to Zillow, it pretty much cuts us out as a buyer's agent because I don't pay to be a Zillow preferred agent. The little blue button on the right-hand side says contact agent. You can do that. I trust you. Trust me. I mean, I'm not going to show up. I think it's like $1,500 a month to do that. And then they forward you the leads. Now down on the bottom, underneath the listing, it'll show you who has listed that home, the brokerage and the agent, so on and so forth. But, agents just don't like it if now something's been integrated and automatically goes to Zillow because they're not there. They're not showing up. But welcome to the world of real estate, right? Speaking of the world of real estate, here's what's going on in our market here. You notice all the red dots now, the red arrows. That means that the index has dropped a little bit. Fountain Hills down 3%, Paradise Valley down 6%. I send this out Monday mornings at 7 o'clock. If you have signed up for my newsletter, you'll get to see it plus the commentary. And so it shows you that our sales have been pretty much stuck. We've been stuck in about 2,700 to 2,500 homes on a weekly basis. And we're not digging out of it at all. In fact, here's my 7-day moving average here. You can see that new listings are starting to climb up as they do seasonally. But new contracts, they're not. So we're not seeing a lot of new contracts. And with the government shutdown, we're not seeing a whole lot of new anything. We didn't get any jobs numbers this week, which I kind of have to chuckle about that. We're missing the jobs data. Hey, last month, weren't we just complaining how bad and unreliable the jobs data was? They fired the lady that was in charge of that bureau. And now that we don't have the jobs data, we can't make decisions because there's no jobs data. We don't know where the economy is going. Well, we didn't know last month either. They revised it down. So we're seeing that average days on market is starting to climb up a little bit. And again, that's seasonal because when you think about it, like here's the average days on market here, and it's over 80. Well, that home was listed here in the heat of the summer. So between there and here is when it finally, sold, went under contract. And now it's going to start coming down just a little bit. It really doesn't mean that much to you as a seller, except when you want to drill down to your neighborhood and see if there's anything specific going on there. Here's the contract ratio. And the thing that we focus on here is that we are in a cold market, which simply means it's slow. And, you're not going to be able to stand out on your porch and say house for sale and get a buyer like you did in 2021. 2021, all you had to do was wink and think, oh, is your house for sale? Here's our canceled listings per week. This is a busy, busy chart, but I put it all up here just to show you where we are in relationship to the other years. It's not an alarming number. This is by week. It did spike up here in week 29, but it's coming down. So people are not going to be canceling too many listings now until you start getting closer to Christmas. We'll see more and more canceled listings. This is a bit of an eye chart. I'm just going to focus on a couple things. We saw over here, this line here, Chandler's got a CMI of 126. Maricopa's got a CMI of 46, cold market, buyer's market, right? Now, I pull up these charts here. Here's the demand index. It's showing you that Maricopa's demand as an index is almost as high as Chandler. In fact, it's just 73.9 versus 77. So what's making the total CMI go down? It's the supply. See in Maricopa how much more supply there is there as an index versus anywhere else. I'll show you Chandler. Chandler's supply is way down here. That's why you have a number that's over 110 for Chandler and 46 for Maricopa. Those two numbers put together is what gives you the CMI. So I hope that explains kind of where they're coming at that number for you. It's a lot of competition in the areas where there's new construction. I've read some new construction numbers that show that their month's supply is approaching like 8 or 9 months. So they're really backing off on their building and their permits now, waiting for things to catch up. Also bumped into an article here that says, we've seen this market cycle before. In 1980s, mortgage rates and home prices soared after a housing boom. Then sales dried up, much like today's market. Will our recovery look similar too? And it said that during the 70s and 80s, the market heated up as baby boomers, me, competed for homes. But then inflation and mortgage rates jumped, putting on the brakes. Now, the housing market did heat up. And I made the tragic mistake. Everything was going up. Condos, houses, got to get in. I got caught up in the FOMO. And this was in the late 70s, probably 79, maybe 80. I bought a condo because my head was, well, I'll buy the condo. It'll be worth more in a year or two. I'll sell that, have more money. I'll be able to afford to buy a house. Well, house prices were going up too. So that really didn't make any sense. And then things turned around. Interest rates went way high, 18%. House prices had really climbed up. Well, they turned around and started coming down. And I know my condo, I paid $33,490. I put $3,490 down on that condo. Didn't take me long to be upside down, right? Sold it 10 years later and got a check for $3,400. I had renters in there for years, but it wasn't a good strategy. So I lived through the 1980s, 70s, and 80s when it comes to home prices. But there was a big pool of buyers with us baby boomers. Now there's a big pool of buyers behind us and not as much inventory available. And that's why prices are not coming down for two reasons. One, we don't have a huge inventory spike. And as high as our interest rates went up, they didn't go up to 18. So, that really put a tough kink in the real estate market. My dad was an agent. And during that, he went full time. And I thought, oh man, how is he going to sell houses? They just had to get creative. He was a creative guy. And he ended up having the largest market share in that small town after a few years. So it also said here, between 1978 and 82, A demographic shift was affecting the market. Baby boomers were in their prime home buying years, leading to a surge in sales. Home prices and inflation spiked, but as mortgage rates jumped to combat inflation, home sales fell nearly 50%, while prices continued to climb, creating a significant affordability gap. So we're going to have a slower rebound this time around. Everything goes back to the mean. It doesn't mean it's going to crash and get back there, but we're going through this adjustment period. I think if we see rates come down um, to the high fives, I really don't see that filling the market with buyers and affecting pricing. I just think we're going to see another adjustment, and it'll be easier for those of you that are selling your house. But instead of being on the market 80, 90 days, maybe it rolls down to about 60. We could be stuck in this situation for quite some time, but I don't know. That's why I come on here and try to check the numbers every week just to see what's going on so I could stay on top of it. I also stay on top of it, and it helps me because that's the QR code is here. If you want a zip code report, I run the zip code report using an artificial intelligence app. But then because I look at the numbers all the time, when I get that report, I go through and read it, and I find mistakes. But what I like with it is how it formats it and how it presents it. But if I were to just pull that report and send it to you, the numbers 9 times out of 10 are not right. I saw one this week that said that sales were up 5% and there were bidding wars. I go, come on. So I got in, tweaked the prompt and tried to change it. Finally, I just run the Cromford report and I pulled the data and I changed the report. I had to do that about 4 times over the weekend. And to make sure that the numbers that I'm delivering to you are exactly what's going on in the market. Because if you get something from me that says that there's bidding wars and things are up 5%, they're going to say, let's flick Rick off the desk. I don't want to hear from that clown anymore. So we'll just keep watching. And that's why I like to look at the numbers over and over again, so that nothing surprises me. And what's not surprising me is the fact that sales are not going up. This is our buying and selling season right now in Phoenix. So mid-October, statistically, nationally, they say this week is the best week to buy because there's more inventory, fewer buyers, but we're not seeing that here. We're not seeing any changes. The inventory it's coming on slowly, about 400 more per week. That's not very alarming. And then it's going to start cutting back the closer you get to Thanksgiving. So don't forget to sign up my newsletter, the link below. And then if you want a zip code report, you use the QR code or the link below. Other than that, have a great night and a terrific week. Take care.